To manipulate history is to manipulate consciousness. And to manipulate consciousness is to manipulate possibilities. And to manipulate possibilities is to manipulate power. Welcome to the show. We got a great show for you today. We got this upcoming brother. He is really setting things on fire, and I really appreciate his research and his scholarship. I think he's going to be one of our top scholars in this country and back in Africa as well. So we got our good brother Sekou Kelleh is coming on. He's back with us here on 360, and we're gonna have a great conversation about some of the things that are going on over in Africa. His views on the Kamala being the nominee, the Democratic nominee for president, and some other things that may just come into play that whatever comes up. So we got a great show for you. Want to stay tuned, stay plugged in, and reach out to someone and let them know that we live now, and come on in and tune in with us in our remote studio. We got our good brother Vince. What's going on, Vince? Anything new?
Well, it's not so new, but I just want to do a quick plug for a program that I'll be involved in this evening. I am performing in the Borderlight Festival. The show is called Unmasked, Navigating a New World Order. And you will be able to go online and get your tickets for the last performance. I'll be on at 5:30, and you definitely have to be on time because once they close the doors, they don't open them. So you can go online and you can get your tickets. You can also get your tickets at the door because the box office is in the same venue that I'm in, and that is the Hermit Club, which is part of the Hofbrauhaus there at 15th and Chester. So hope to see you in the place tonight. Without any further ado, we'd like to bring on our guest. It is Brother Sekou Kelleh, as Antonio mentioned. He is a social worker, he's a cultural activist, and he is a Pan-Africanist. So he's got the DNA of Marcus Garvey flowing through his blood, whether it is actual DNA or a facsimile of it. The spirit is still the same. Welcome to 360 Info Network, Brother Sekou Kelleh.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be back here again. Thank you, Brother Vincent. Thank you, Antonio. And thanks to all the viewers out there. I'm very happy to be here. I'm not a stranger on this platform. I think I've been here a couple of times. And I'm very, very happy to be here to exchange ideas, to learn and relearn, and also share ideas with our family. This is a family discussion.
Absolutely, brother. Well put. And I appreciate you feeling comfortable by coming on this platform and being a part of what we're doing and sharing here, because we definitely appreciate your time, your research, and your scholarship. Because I first ran into you and seen you on Sarnetta's platform, and I knew you was headed for greatness at that particular point. And I was, I think you remember one time. You were on with Sarnetta, and Professor Small said, "There's a brother in Cleveland trying to reach out to you." You know what I mean? So I was trying to get in touch with Sarnetta. I was trying to, hey, Brother Smalls, So I said, yeah. So I was trying to reach out to you for a little while because I wanted to have this opportunity to engage with you because I knew it would be a good thing. So, my good brother, with that being said, a couple general questions before we kind of get into a few other things. And I want to kind of lay out some things for some of our listeners who may be having their eyes on Africa, may be curious about Africa, and those who might be wanting to know more about what's going on in Africa. So, in general, through your sources and what you've been seeing, because we know you're from Liberia, and I'm sure you got family there, people there, and maybe some other countries as well. I've been watching a lot of videos with a lot of African YouTubers over there that have channels, and it seems to be a certain type of awareness and an awakening in the climate that is going on as far as our young folks is concerned. So could you give the people a general understanding, a feeling of what the climate or could we say is, do you feel there's a certain type of awakening going on the climate, on the continent?
Absolutely. There's a lot going on the continent, and in terms of the political activities, economic, social, cultural, a lot of change is going on. In terms of economics, everybody knows that is the Africa relationship with China. No matter how many people want to critique it, it has its own area that you can critique, but it has brought a lot of infrastructural development. Africans have realized that they could actually train themselves and build infrastructures for themselves. So the image of Africa in the 60s and 70s, where they show you all these huts and all of that, is fake. You go to Africa today, you go to a city like Nairobi, you'll be asking yourself, where am I? It's a modern city with skyscrapers. You find yourself in Lagos, Abuja. It's a modern city. You find yourself in Abidjan. You think you're in a very, very modern city. So infrastructural development is taking place, transforming, going on in Africa. But there's another thing that's happening in Africa, which is the information, the awakening of the consciousness of young people. The Western media call it the Gen Z movement. Me, I call it the internet revolution generation of Africans. So information is spreading very fast. Now you don't have to rely on radio or corporate media. There is podcasts such as this one, and information flying everywhere. So Africans are beginning to realize that there are a lot of information that were hidden from them. So they started holding government accountable. They started rebelling against the system. They started speaking against European neo-colonial system. So this is what is going on. In places like Sahel, you saw the coup taking place, and those young men are saying, no more, France cannot control our resources. Then you find places like Kenya, the youth are demonstrating against the IMF and World Bank policies that were trying to put heavy taxes on the people through their government. They are saying, no, now we know what's going on. We're going to dictate what laws are made in our country, and we don't let any superpower come here and tell us what we're going to do with our lives. Now, this protest in Kenya, which is holding government accountable, it has spilled over to Uganda. As we speak, Nigeria is preparing for one of the biggest protests in its history, and it's starting on the 1st of next month, August. And they are preparing to have 2 weeks protest against the government for some policies that were inspired by World Bank and IMF. They say they don't want it anymore. They want to hold government accountable. And in Liberia, we have our Independence Day celebration, which is July 26th. It happened yesterday. And we have a culture where every Independence Day, a citizen is choosing to give what they call national oratory speech. So a lady was chosen, a young lady from a university, to give a speech, and she gave a revolutionary speech that have never been given in the history of Liberia, where the U.S. ambassador had to walk out of the hall in protest because the young lady said, no more, Liberia will be a stooge to America. We need a new era and a new time for African people. We don't want to be America's stepchild. And the U.S. ambassador walked out, and it's gone viral all over. And this is the first time since 1847 that Liberians are saying to America, no more. We want to be equal partners, and now you being the big brother. So there is a change of consciousness taking place on the continent.
Wow, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. And this is some of the things that I wanted to point out to our listeners and people who may be having their eye on Africa and understanding. You know, there's going to be a little rocky road, and you need to understand what's exactly taking place. You know, when you have a transition, or you have an awakening, or you have a movement, you know the powers that be is going to resist those type of things. And so you may be hearing about in the news a little conflicts here, a little problems here, and things of that nature. But those things are necessary for change. Think about some of the things that were going on here in America when we was trying to ride on the bus, and we was trying to get equal wages and try to get in unions. And you had a little civil unrest. You had things going on to affect those changes before everything was agreed about. Something that Dr. Amos Wilson said, you have to change yourself in order to effective change. You can't sit up here and constantly do the same things and expect change to happen. So you change yourself and folks and things around you will automatically change. So that's one thing that we have to keep in mind what's going on. And a footnote here, sometimes, biblically they talk about and they say that you live by the sword, you die by the sword, in a sense. So I'm saying that in reference to the internet, with our technology on internet, it's been to the detriment of Western society, because it made the world smaller, and this information, that is leaking out, and Africans and the like is able to get to, is really not been in the best interest of Western society at all. So this same technology might be to their detriment. That's the point that I'm making. And moving a little bit, Brother Sekou, that was well put, and I'm glad that you said that. And for somebody to be connected like you are to really make those statements, I think is important. So, because we have our good brother, Dr. Nana Whitaker, too, that kind of speaks on some of the changes and the enlightenments that are going on over there. So I guess the next thing that some of our listeners and people who may be looking at Africa is, where do you think, or do you think there's a place for African Americans in Africa? Do you see Pan-Africanists or coming together, or even maybe some of the country heads are starting to look towards the African American to offer some type of incentives, or to attract some other Black folks from around the world to come in and investing and spending time in Africa?
Yes, obviously. So where I would like to start with that, one of the struggle of Africa and Black people has been uniting ourselves and putting our resources and our ideas together to create something for ourselves on the global stage. When in the 1800s and towards the 19th century, when slavery was getting over with, the Africans saw that there was nothing else but for them to unite. And things like Marcus Garvey and Pan-Africanism and all of these things that were coming on board, the original idea has been, how do we unite Black people on the global stage for us to be able to protect each other and create prosperity for ourselves? This was the idea of Liberia that was given birth to by African American. Now, the Western world have also calculated. They have made every effort. They have made everything possible to make sure that never happened. That has been their struggle. That has been their intelligence, have done everything possible to make sure that never happened. If you read the book called White Malice, I have the book, but I don't have it right here with me. White Malice. So white as in WHITE, then malice, MALICE. That book was written by a white lady. She tried to tell us how the intelligence, the CIA and other intelligence operation in Europe penetrated the African independence movement. They had a great fear that Black Americans were coming into Africa to meet Kwame Nkrumah, and they were having meetings. They were strategizing. How can we come together and build something that will benefit us? And Kwame Nkrumah was pushing for the United States of Africa. And they were also setting up a system where Black American can be represented in the United Nations. So there could be a nation within the United States and protect themselves, and Africa will be their allies. So these people saw that it was a dangerous move. So they started sending spies. They started sending infiltrators into this movement to make sure it never happened. That led to the overthrow of Kwame Nkrumah. That led to the death of Patrice Lumumba. That led to the overthrow of all these leaders that were having this vision. Yeah, White Malice. So if you read this book, you will see that the first conference organized by Kwame Nkrumah in Accra, I think Martin Luther King was even there at that time.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
And most of these people went there, and on that platform, they were discussing the future of Black people. So the early leaders of Africa and the early leaders of Black America, you could see they were putting the energy together. All this division they are mentioning nowadays, oh, you are Africans. No, you don't need to associate. Our leaders didn't, they knew that that would be a big mistake to disconnect us from our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. So they were bringing their energy together and see what is in there. How does Black American benefit from this union? And how does Africa benefit from this union? How do we put our ideas together? Because the white supremacist structure is global. It doesn't matter whether you live in America or in Europe. It's a global structure that seeks to put Black men at the bottom of the ladder. So it doesn't matter what passport you carry. It's a system that targets us based on our skin color. So now these Black people were saying, how do we work together? So it was this coming together of ideas that the white man was afraid of, that the white man spent all his resources over the years to destroy. So today we are in 2024, and unfortunately, most of the Pan-African leaders were removed and they were replaced by pro-Western leaders who try to ignore Black America. They try to ignore the struggle that we had together with the diaspora to build something called Pan-Africanism. But the good news is the new generation have found out the trick. So they say, you guys were planted to destroy, to thwart this idea of African and African diaspora unity. So we are not going to work with this European system. So that's why you see the coup d'etat happening. You see Senegal coming out and saying, we want Pan-Africanism. We don't want any other political ideology that does not serve the interests of global African people. Any political philosophy or ideology that does not serve the global interest of Black people, that political ideology is anti-African. We have to get rid of it. So this is what is happening on the continent. And the young people are saying, African Americans, African diaspora, come to Africa and invest. Africa is the new frontier of development. It's the new frontier of economic activities. So we don't want the land to be owned by the Chinese. We don't, because what capitalism does, it says whoever have the capital is everything is to the highest bidder. Mm-hmm. Yeah, mm-hmm. You sell everything to the highest bidder. So in 200 years from now, if we don't bring our diaspora to invest, you're going to come back in Africa and find out that the railroad is owned by a white man, the seaport is owned by the Chinese, and most of the farmland has been bought by the British. Then it has to be another struggle again. So we are saying this entire real estate called Africa belongs to us. It belongs to you. We are not saying give up your passport. We are not saying give up your citizenship. You pay your dues. You have to be, you can have citizenship anywhere in the world, but you have to also be a global African citizen. Come into Africa, invest, demand for your right, lobby with the government, and say, look, we are diasporan and we are coming to invest. But you are not going to give me the same rule you give to a white investor, because my ancestors have a stake in this real estate. So what are the tax cuts for a Black American wanting to invest in real estate? What is the tax cut for me investing in schools, education, or industry? I want a tax cut. I want something that can make my economic growth faster, that I can make billions of dollars in Africa faster than I will make it in America. We can have this discussion. This is what we want. It's not the 19th century or let me say 20th century movement where it's a pack your load and leave everything behind America and just move to Africa. No, we've gone past that. We say be a global African. You can be an American citizen, you can, no problem. You can be Jamaican, no problem. But then you can come into Africa also and broaden your base. You can be able to invest. You can increase in wealth. Because as long as the money is circulating among Black people, then there's a high chance that we can elevate ourselves on the global ladder. But if we begin to trade with these European capitalists, they have only one mission and one mission only, to keep us at the bottom of the ladder. That's what we need to fight against.
Wow. See, that's amazing. You hit it, because I've seen commentary for some of these white Europeans and saying that admit, that they need, their job is to keep the Southern countries of the southern equator underfoot. That's their job and their role, because they know that, you know, most of the resources come from there. So their job is to keep it underfoot, you know. And I think that, you know, Black folks coming into Africa, coming in and negotiating their trades and their talents, I think that's another tool that they can use in order to get some footage into Africa. So you kind of touched on it and mentioned. So with that being said, you know, to our listeners out there, do you think that there's what's trending now, or is going to be a trend, more so, of other leaders starting to open up the doors for citizenship, for dual citizenship for African Americans? Your thoughts?
Yes. So the issue of dual citizenship has been moving around. Liberia have you know, Liberia early constitutions that was created by the founding fathers, Black Americans, and the other Caribbeans who arrived. They said that citizenship of Liberia is only awarded to someone of what they call, quote unquote, Negro descent. So for 100 years, only a Black person could be Liberian citizen. We are the only one who had that type of constitution. And that was because of the experience of slavery and all of that. So they did that. So they've removed that clause now, but they've also added dual citizenship. You can be African American, you can be Liberian. I think Ghana have done the same, Sierra Leone have done the same. And it's very important, and I keep repeating this, in production, in economy or whatever, land is the most important thing. Without land, there's no production. Without land, there's no economy. We are saying there's vast land in Africa. Buy land. For me, even that I'm here, I'm going to school in Canada, I'm improving myself, you know, getting some education. What do I do? Every year or every 2 years, when I make some money, I don't keep all my money in the European banks here or try to do mortgage or what have you. I buy land. I've been buying land in Liberia since I've been here. I have a lot of land. I have farmland in my. So in a few years, I return back home. I'm a landowner. And that's what I'm telling even our brothers. Buy land in Africa. There's nothing you got to lose if you own 3, 4, 5 acres of farmland in Africa and you live in America. All you need to do is to say, what plantation? Can I plant rice and feed the entire West Africa? Can I plant tomatoes and have an industry to feed entire East Africa? Plant something, just own it. Or can I build real estate and put these houses in rent? The land, we should never allow European, Chinese, and other people to come and be owning land in Africa. That would be a big mistake. We should own the land. And now the time is still available. Black Americans, African diaspora, you have $10,000, you have $5,000, go and buy a huge land in Africa, put a fence around it, put a document in your name. That's an investment. That's an investment. That's where to start. You don't need a lot of money. You don't need millions of dollars. No, you have a few thousands of dollars. You walk into Liberia and say, look, how do I get my dual citizenship? Work that out. Buy your land, a huge farmland, keep your documents. If you don't even develop it, your children will develop it.
There you go. There you go.
You don't develop your children, wake up one day to see the document. Oh, our dad have 3, 4, 5 acres of land.
There you go.
They go and develop it. Okay. And this is what you do. What the Europeans have been doing. How did they own America that they own today? They started taking the land. They were arriving and they started taking the land until they took Canada, they took America by taking the land. They duped the indigenous people and say, oh, we are trying to buy the land, or we are trying to make fun, because they understood that land is the most important thing in production. It's the most important thing. Let's own the land in Africa.
And I think pretty much that's what, you know, see, that school of thought is I think it's permeating, and, you know, those countries in the Sahel and with Burkina Faso, you know, I'm switching gears a little bit to see how we're going to get to this point, you know, and opening in those doors, you know, and I think other French-speaking countries are starting to see what those 3 countries are doing and surviving. And it's critical at this particular point, because I've been watching and listening to a few things that our good brother in Burkina Faso is going through and having to deal with. And we should know, and they should know that they're coming at them because they don't want to give up their rental property. Because French, as far as France is concerned, they're looking at those African countries as rental property. You know, they're helping them, helping their civilization, they're helping their societies and things like that. So we ought to know that they're not going to give up that easily. You know, they don't want a fair shake with Africa. Like we talked about the uranium, you know, in Nigeria, they're selling at 80 cents, but the world market is $200 per kilogram or whatever the unit measurement that they're using. So they're not going to do that easily. But what I see and what I like from the young leader, and you can comment on it, is that I see the relation building that he is doing in other parts of the world. You know, and I just looked at a piece that as far as Venezuela and Cuba, you know, that they have agricultural agreements, education agreements, military agreements of sharing information and technology and stuff like that. And I like his ideology of basically saying, okay, how do you keep people, for the lack of better words, in line and comfortable with their surroundings? You educate them and you offer them opportunities, you know, for them to get a piece of the pie as well. So they understand that, versus in contrast of some of the puppet leaders used to do, and just their tribe, you know, just look out for their tribe and themselves and things of that nature. So I think that strategy and is really speaking well to the general populace. You know, they understand that and they feel that, and I think that's what that young innovative approach in thinking is doing. And I think we over here as African Americans need to put our hands around the brother. Your thoughts?
Yes, definitely. The leadership today in Africa, the young people have understood that we need to go towards industrialization, because one of the way the Europeans tricked our leaders was to tell them that there is such a thing called development. That development, there are two development systems. There is the developed world, called the first world country, and there is a third world country, underdeveloped countries. And the second world country used to be the Soviet Union. So they say, in order for you to develop, you need to follow the developed world. You need to follow us. We need to give you handout. We need to teach you. You can't get there. You don't know it. You've never developed in your life. You don't know what development is. So development is a huge secret. And we are the owner of this secret. So you need to now come to us through our World Bank, through our IMF, and we're going to tell you the secret. So what do African leaders do? They go for huge conferences, economic conferences. They go sit down with the US and all this government and tell them, okay, what are you going to do to develop? Because you want your cities to be like New York, okay? Then we're going to teach you how to become New York. All your raw materials, you have to sell it to us for $2. And we will be giving you loan. And make sure you plant crops, cash crops you don't need. Because we in America, we want chocolate. We want you to plant cocoa. And the French want to drink coffee. So we want you to plant the coffee plants. And the Africans say, well, we want to plant tomatoes, rice, and cassava, what our people need to eat. They said, no, don't plant that. If you do that, you won't have money. We are trying to teach you how to develop. Plant the cash crops that we need in America. Our industry will transform them, and we will sell it back to you. Then eventually you will develop. Africans have been doing that since independence. Ivory Coast is one of the highest producer of cocoa and coffee in the world, in Ghana. Then Liberia was the highest producer of rubber and iron ore. In fact, in the 70s, all the irons were taken out of Liberia to build many skyscrapers, and Liberia itself did not have one. The rubber, if you see Firestone, any tire of your car on Firestone on it, that Firestone was established in Liberia for going to 2 centuries now. They've been taking out the rubber. And Liberians have no factory. We don't eat rubber, and we don't have factory to produce anything out of rubber. All we know, rubber is a synonymous to America. We just gave it to them and they gave up peanuts. Then they go to Niger. They say, well, you have uranium. You don't need uranium. So what you do, give it to us. We have to build nuclear power plants. We have to give electricity to our countries. Then we're going to help you. Your children can come live in France. You too can go to France. We can protect you. This is the deception of development, the illusion of the development they have given to Africa over these years. So what people like Diop have told African leaders a long time, he said there is no such thing as development. It's a fake word that they give to you. In nature, everything that is created develops naturally. Okay? Even a baby born, the baby start developing and growing naturally. What happened is there is something that impairs development. Either malnutrition in case of human being or organisms, whether you are not getting the right food, you are not in the right environment, you are not getting the right water and air, then your development will be stagnated. Otherwise, naturally, every living thing will naturally develop. So development sold to you is an illusion. What we should be discussing is African Renaissance, the rediscovery of African intelligence, African genius, African creativity is what we need to focus on. What you call development is a result of that. When you have intelligent people, educated population who think, who have vision, who are united, who have a culture, who have a national identity that they want to protect. The ancient Egyptians did not go to Europe to learn how to build pyramids. They didn't go to Europe to do a development conference how to build pyramids. Okay? They only had a natural condition. Enemies could not attack their territory. They could feed themselves. They could educate themselves. Naturally, they start thinking how to build stuff. So this is what we need to do. We need to just avoid people influencing our lives, trying to interfere with our development. We need autonomy. And once we have the autonomy, we involve and we are going to create things for ourselves. So the modern generation is saying we need industries. We don't need a development handout. We need industry to transform our raw material. We cannot continue to feed the industries in Europe. We cannot keep giving them cocoa and coffee and rubber and iron ore and uranium. We want to develop those, process those materials on our continent and sell the product to them. So we want you in France to drink African coffee and be drinking African chocolate and eating African chocolate. We want uranium to be used on the continent. Who says we don't need power plants made of nuclear fuel? Who says that we don't need nuclear bomb to deter any European nation from ever enslaving Black people again? In fact, we should have been the first to be on the line to have a nuclear weapon and say never again that anyone will come on this continent and enslave us, and even gave the name of our ancestors to that bomb and say anybody that trespass on this continent anymore, we can assure you there will be mutual annihilation. You cannot colonize us anymore. This is what people who have national identity, that's what they do. But what they've done to African is to say you have to only be thinking of how to eat, okay? And then development, we will tell you how you need to develop. That philosophy is what modern Africans are rejecting. They say IMF. What happened in Kenya? Kenyan president went to meet IMF for a loan. I think the World Bank or so, he went there, he said, I need a loan. I have a lot of debts. And they said, well, we can give you some billions of dollars. But in order for us to give you these billions of dollars, you need to tell us how you're going to pay this loan. And he said, well, I don't know. I will pay it back little by little. They said, no, go back to Kenya and increase the food prices. Add 25 or 30%. And some other food commodity, increase it to 100%. The bread, the oil, the food that the poor people of Kenya need to eat, you have to increase it 100%. In other words, go and impoverish your people, let them suffer more. then now we can give you the loan. And the foolish president comes back and gives the bill to the National Assembly, and those incompetent lawmakers, they just pass the bill without debate. So the young people say, okay, now we're going to make this nation ungovernable. Return that bill back to the IMF. We don't need it. If you want to take loan to develop this country, you need to cut the salaries of rich people. You need to stop financing the office of the First Lady. You need to stop going on trips, on picnic, and going on tourism to America and all these places. Cut down the trips, reduce the salary of governments, and cut down the cost of governance, and you can pay for this loan. You don't need to impoverish the poor people in order for you to pay for your IMF loan. So this is where we are. The European illusion of a development versus the African Renaissance. The illusion of development versus African Renaissance. That's where we are.
Well said. My good brother Vince, I know you want to plug us in and jump into this particular conversation.
Well, I want to rewind a few moments ago when you were talking about investment in Africa, and you've also so brilliantly described the paradigm in which Europeans come to African countries, exploit the resources, exploit the people, and then walk away with all the profits. I just want folks to be mindful of the economic reboot that's taking place right now. When you talk about investment in Africa, you know, European countries, the Russians, the Chinese, they're investing in Africa, and they're looking at something called tokenization. So with tokenization, and it's basically digitization of assets, digitization of resources. They could tokenize Lake Victoria, for instance, or they could tokenize certain land in certain places. And basically, from what I'm understanding, all you have to do is look at it and say, I claim it, tokenize it, and then sell shares of it. And the government doesn't even have anything to do with the tokenization of that property. But I just want to encourage people to become aware of tokenization and how it can be something that benefits us. You talked about owning land, but not necessarily living there. You know, we don't have to pick up and leave to have an investment in African land and African commodities. So we have to expand our consciousness when it comes to the idea of ownership, and we have to be willing to dedicate our resources to those things. You also talked about citizenship, and I think it's a critical time to be thinking about having more than one passport, because let's face it, things are getting really ugly here in America, and we can talk about the political realities right now. We got Republican versus Democrat. We've got this whole idea that if Black people vote Democrat, then it's going to be their salvation, when in fact, the Democrats have taken us for granted for so long, and they feel as though they represent our interests, but they don't ask us what our interests are. So they're creating this whole paradigm of fear. They're throwing Project 2025 at us and getting us all riled up about the possibilities, when in fact, Project 2025 is already in progress, and states are implementing some of the platforms of that particular philosophy right now. So we have to be prepared to do what is necessary for us, no matter who gets in office. You know, so it can be the Republicans or it can be the Democrats, but we have to be prepared to deal with what comes. When you talk about citizenship, dual citizenship, I wanted to just ask you, what would be involved in obtaining dual citizenship in a country like Liberia? Because I know there are other countries in the world that you can go to, and if you pay the price, you can get the documents and make it happen. But what would be involved in obtaining a dual citizenship for a country like Liberia?
To be honest with you, I don't know the exact law, because these lawmakers, they keep passing different laws all the time. So the dual citizenship in Liberia, the one that I know about, is basically you can be a U.S. citizen and still be a Liberian citizen. So it's allowed. Now, in terms of how do you obtain Liberian citizenship, I think Liberian citizenship used to be by birth or by naturalization. So you spend certain amount of time in the country. So then you can apply to naturalize yourself and then become a citizen. So I don't know how many years you need to live in the country or how many period of time you need to stay there for you to do that. I don't know the details right now, but I do know that you can hold two passports and be a Liberian citizen at the same time. So for countries like Ghana, I think they have a special clauses for African for the diaspora, and then Sierra Leone also. You just need to go there and then fulfill some of their, and then even I think Rwanda and other places like that, they make it simple for diaspora Africans to go back and then obtain their citizenship. So that's what it is. It's different from country to country. Some country you need to spend a little amount of time in the country, understand the culture and all of that. And some other country you can just walk in, and as long as you are African diaspora, you can make the case and be able to get the citizenship. And it's very important to do that, because many people don't know. Like every white, when I was in Europe, I met few white Americans. A couple of them, they hired me to be an interpreter for them, because they wanted to have some business with Italians, and they couldn't speak Italian, and I speak Italian, so I decided to be a translator or interpreter between them. So I found out that many Americans, even those in the army, do not have just American citizenship. The white Americans, most of them have Canadian citizenship. Some of them have some European citizenship. But when you see them moving around in America, the MAGA guys, the white supremacists, all of them have two passports. But somehow they tell the African diaspora, no, forget about Africa. Why you guys want to go over there? You are different. Okay, check the numbers. Go to tourism, check Gambia, check Cape Verde, check all these countries that have nice beaches in Africa that have businesses. Check the amount of white Americans, white Europeans that go into Africa each year. You will be surprised. They are in thousands, hundreds of thousands. Go to the remote. You can Google right now the Blue Lake in Liberia. Liberia have a place called the Blue Lake. Very beautiful area. The water is naturally blue. White people are there 24/7, and they are white Americans. And all the best places in Liberia, they want to buy. They want to offer money. That's why they love free market so much, because they got the capital. So they come. When they see any beautiful part of the country, they offer a lot of money, they take it. They make it their vacation spot. But they tell you, it's not safe. Don't go there. But they are all over the place. Okay? That's why I have debate on Sanera. Some people tell me, some of our African-American brother who are not as conscious as the majority, they will say, why should I go to Liberia or Africa? What should I do there? They don't like us. And one of you. I said, well, the propaganda is coming from the white media, but the white man is there in all the villages. He's everywhere. He's in all the town. So if it's not safe and he's not dying, why is he telling you not to go there? If he's after our government to buy all the nice places to live, why aren't you entitled to it? Why is it that he wants to make you to have a tribal mindset, to be stuck? Why he wants to be a global citizen of the world, where he can own a hotel in Dubai, own a restaurant in Liberia, own a production company in Kenya, and then he have his residence in America. So he relaxed. He can choose in 6 months, I'm going to live here. I move here. And then you are wondering why they are traveling all over the place. And they are making money from every sources. And you want to limit yourself to a tribal idea. Oh, I'm here and I'm not going to move. We have problem with Africa. Africa belongs to you. In fact, you need to make a case to African government and said, we need some incentives. And when you push the case, you get it. That's why Malcolm went into Africa and said, look, all of you have to come together and support us. We have to build an organization that will defend Black America in the United Nations. We want to make a case against the UN, to the UN, about the Black American genocide. And he got some support. The pro-American Africans were scared, but the brave ones were like, yeah, we are with you. This is the type of lobby we need to do. Every government needs to be lobbied. Even in America, your government is lobbied by forces. That's why they behave the way they behave. So we can sit down and say African government will naturally do things right. We need to stand in their throat and tell them this is what you need to do. This is what you need to do. Especially Liberia is the African American sweat and blood. Literally, if you put out all the presidents in Liberia until 1980, from 1847 to 1980, almost majority of them were born in the United States or in the Caribbean. Okay? So today you can tell the difference between who was African American and who was indigenous in Liberia. We've intermarried, we've mixed, so that doesn't exist anymore. So we've become one. So it is a place that they need to sit down and see how they can invest in those places, because it's very important. It's very important for us to have investments around the world, especially in Africa, because the day these guys turn their face, because they are already started doing that, the seaport, they are coming from all the strategic economic area. That's why you see the Sahel is kicking them out, and they are angry because they pick all the strategic point of the country, the seaport, the mining area, the industry, the agriculture. They want to take all the strategics so that when you come back, you become a tenant. If you go into a hotel, you still give the money to the white man.
Yes, yes.
You want to buy water in the shop, you still give the money back to the white man.
Yes,
So
yes.
now we've become tenants in our own continent.
Come on, you brother, I got to interject. I've been saying this for years, man. What you just said, I've been saying. I said the African American is not going to come back to Africa until they see it on TV, boogada, and somebody saying, "Come to Africa," and then that's when we're gonna be like, "Oh, something going on in Africa." And then we're gonna run over there, and they already got all the oceanfront property built up, all the infrastructure, they own all the land, all the nice strategic places, and then we wind up doing what? Giving our money to them. So the motherland gonna be the other land. It's gonna be owned by other folks outside of that. So you gotta look for the future, man.
Imagine 3 Black American billionaires, just 3 or 2, just walk into Ghana or Liberia and say, "We want to have a business conference, a meeting with the president." And they said, "Look, we want Black Americans to invest here, but we have to create a new business rule that give us incentives over our white American counterpart, because we have a stake in this real estate. So let's have business. If they are supposed to pay 1 million tax for this, we are supposed to pay far less than that, because we want to invest, and this belongs to us. You have to give a priority. It's natural for a European. For a European, you don't even need a conference. If a white man walks into Canada or walks into Italy and wants to do business versus a Black man from Africa, you know who the priority will be. You know who they're going to put first. That's the mentality I want. I want, if any white man gets into Africa and stay in a hotel, that hotel belongs to a Black American. If he goes to buy water, that $1 goes to the Black American pocket. Now there are money circulating in our pockets. Instead, if we allow the reverse to happen, that's a disaster. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think too, it's just critical for us to embrace the idea of investing. You know, we have this financial illiteracy amongst our population, and people are also stuck in a survival mode. So the money comes in and the money goes out, and most times you don't have any money set aside for saving or investing. So we really have to train our people in terms of the benefit of investing, and then there's profit involved because you make the investment in a business and property, real estate, those types of things. You get a return on that investment, and it enables you to grow things. But we're so stuck in surviving, and then on top of that, we're dealing with inflation and the increased costs of all the things that we depend on to stay alive. So I really do think that we have to start preaching and teaching the benefit of investing, as well as, you know, success in business. Because let's face it, America is a population of workers. That's what the education system is all about. It's about training workers. It's not really about training entrepreneurs. We should be training our babies to think about having businesses, as opposed to just going and working for somebody and then having their lives controlled by the measly wages that they're willing to give us. You know, we're winding down on our radio broadcast right now. I just want to take this moment to inform the listeners that we do have a video aspect to our program. So if you're listening to us on the radio, you can actually view us on YouTube and on Facebook. So you can go to the 360 Info Network Facebook page. You can pick up the broadcast. You can catch us on YouTube on my channel. You can also go to Hamtonio's channel, The Journey with Hamtonio, and you can pick up our program. And I have to say this, we'll continue to ask you to subscribe to our channels so that we can get the benefits that come with subscription. And it doesn't cost you anything. You can just click on the button, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you will get notifications when we do these broadcasts. Brother Sekou indicated that he had been on the show before, and yes, there are 2 prior broadcasts. You can go to my YouTube channel, you can go to Hamtonio's YouTube channel, and you can pick up those broadcasts and get the information that we've been sharing with you. On one of the previous broadcasts, Brother Sekou had some visuals that he put up from a presentation that he had done, and I think it would behoove you to take advantage of that broadcast. Hamtonio?
Yeah, let me add something into what you're saying too, and at least to couple what you're talking about, learning about the investment. And that's why I preach our culture and learning, because if we don't unlock this here, a lot of the stuff we'll find ourselves spinning our wheels on. You know, when we talk about money and investment, we got money. See, we just got to change our value system. Because we spend a lot of, like Sekou said, it don't take millions of dollars to do a little something like that. Look at the little money that we putting together with Nana. You know what I'm saying? It just takes some ideas. It takes some vision. It takes some redirections of your values, and this, and so that all comes with changing your consciousness, changing your understanding, and creating a different reality for yourself. You know, all the money we spend on sports athletic gear, going out partying, spending on the lottery, spending on cars and rims and all this insignificant crap. We got the money to reinvest in Africa and to do things. You know, it's there. But coupling with that strategy of understanding what to put in, what to invest in, and what to do, it's a redirecting and an uplifting of consciousness. And I think one of the glues to help with the conscientiousness of a person is a culture, and having a common culture. And what do cultures do? A culture teaches you how to do business with one another, what the purpose of a man, woman, and child. And like Dr. Amos Wilson say, a culture is economic. If our culture say we wear these type of shirts, guess what? Someone in the community is making these type of shirts, and the money is circulating. So it's a change of consciousness. That's what we need, and that's why we need platforms like this. And we need to, us conscious folks need to have more institutions and to develop this type of mindset.
Absolutely. We will be switching gears and migrating over to our YouTube and Facebook platforms momentarily. But I just wanted to again inform the listeners that you've been listening to 360 Info Network. Our guest is Sekou Kelleh. He is a cultural activist for African Renaissance. He's also a social worker. You know, before we started the show, he was talking about the certain paradigms that exist within our correctional facility system And in the next hour, I want to talk to him about the perception of Canadians when it comes to the American political climate right now. We find ourselves in this place of division, extreme division. And I'm just curious about what the Canadians think about what's going on here. But I also know that there are a number of Canadians who are not feeling the present leadership in Canada. You know, we've had this idea over the years that Canada was a place where we could find refuge and freedom. You know, we traveled the Underground Railroad from the south to the north, and Canada was seen as a promised land. But these days, based on what Brother Sekou said, it doesn't seem to be that, because the incarceration rates for Black people in Canada are high, just as they are here in America. And the conclusion that we've come to is that there are certain commonalities in the leadership of different countries that lead to those things happening. So I guess the real question is, what can we do to reverse those trends? We know that the correctional system is not there to rehabilitate us. It is to continue a certain paradigm of exploitation. You know, you've got folks who are locked up and working for peanuts and profiting the corporations that are tied to those prisons. Somebody said something really insightful last night to me. They were just talking about how there were prisons where there was concern that the cells weren't full. So the authorities needed to go in and do what they needed to do to get those prisons full. It is almost noon, and I just want to thank you all for listening to us here on 360 Info Network. I would like to thank our engineer, Tone Harley, as always, for making this broadcast possible. We're doing what many do not do. We're coming to you live on Facebook and YouTube. So with that, as always, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace, everyone. All right, in just a few moments, we will be live on Facebook and YouTube. And again, our guest is Brother Sekou Kelleh. He is a social worker, among other things, but he is a Pan-Africanist and definitely resonates with this platform, because we like to talk about culture and its impact on our lives. You know, I'm looking at certain things that are happening in families, young people who don't have an opportunity to go through something called rites of passage. With rites of passage, you get an understanding as a young person as to what your role in life is. And if you don't understand your role and you don't understand your purpose, you leave yourself prey for the prison industrial complex. It's really a sad thing when you have young people in your own families that threaten the safety and security of family members and the community, and you throw your hands up in the air and you say, what can we do? And you turn them over to the authorities. And then they get stuck in that system. And I'm sure you can attest to this, Brother Antonio, being someone who is involved in police work and seeing that dynamic play out over and over again. Brother Sekou, talk to us about how things are in Canada for Black folks.
Yes. Canada have a very good PR out there as one of the peaceful countries that are less racist and all of that. But the reality here, as a social worker, I found out Black people here are just about 4.5 or 4.3% of the population. So very little population, because you have mostly white people, followed by the second largest population will be Asians, especially Indians. And then you have the indigenous people and all that, who also, their number is very low. But Black people about 4%, 4.3, 4.5. But in the prison, they are about 9 to 10% of the prison population. Now, if you think that 9% or 10% is nothing, but if you have 4% of the population, people who are just 4.5% of the population, but then you have 9% or to 10% of them, of that, of the prison population, that's very high. that means they are disproportionately being targeted. So there's a lot of report of police targeting black males. There's also a report that black boys are targeted in schools to be associated with crime. And I have witnessed some of it here. I follow up with school activities. So there was this black boy from Rwanda who the school made a huge report. And that's just an incident from where you can know how the problem works. So this child, there was a huge report that he fights a lot in the school and they want to expel him, that he creates a lot of problem and he's not paying attention in school, he's fighting. So the mom was very devastated. So I said, okay, we are going to follow up this. So I went to the school and sat down with the principal and one of you, I said, okay, what did he do exactly? Can you guys really tell me in detail what is wrong with this boy? And then they explain everything that they say he does, that he loves fighting. And we call him. I called the boy and then called some of his friends that were there. And the white friends, they were like, no, he wasn't fighting. He was just, we were playing. And when the teacher came, he just picked this guy out and said this boy was fighting. He said, but he wasn't fighting. We were all playing and all of us were involved. But we don't know why he picked out this black boy and then put him on the discipline list. So I began to find out that what they do, they start stigmatizing our children very early. That what could be an overlooked young child playing and being delinquent, a young child just messing around, they try to elevate it to a level that the child is committing crime. So they start putting it in the child. And when the child comes in and report to us as parents, we start saying, yeah, your teachers are right. You are not paying attention. We start yelling at the child instead of going back really to find out the facts. And this child starts feeling, okay, mom and dad at home, they believe I'm criminal. And the school thinks I'm criminal. The child start becoming a rebel. So I started telling black parents, follow up. When your child comes home from school and give you a report, follow up to the last point. What happened? What did the teacher say to that child? At what point it happened? When I started following up on that boy, we find out that he was one of the most brilliant child in the class. In fact, he has the highest score in math and in French in the class. And we find out that 60% of all the allegations they lay of him were all false. They were made up. The teacher operated from the position of assumption. There was no facts to it. And when they saw that we were following up, they stopped.
They squashed it all.
Yeah, they squashed it off. They started, they said, if you touch the guy, Kelleh is going to be here next week with his definition. So they started. So every week I send them email. I'm like, what's going on with the boy? They're like, no, you don't need to write email anymore. Everything is okay. I'm like, no, I'm just following up. I'm trying to make sure. So this is what they do. And most of the time, our boys do not go past high school. You find them in drugs. You find them, they've been incarcerated. What you don't have here a lot, even though it exists, is the police shooting. The shooting happens, but it happened few times. Black Lives Matter is also here, and they've been holding them to task. But the shooting is not compared to what you see in America. But what has been happening here is the incarceration. And when you are incarcerated, sometimes just simple cases where they need to just put the person in rehabilitation. Maybe the person is having some issue. They just keep them in the prison. But when it's white kids, they make sure they take them to rehabilitation. They try to make sure they are okay. They provide them with all the resources they need for them to be able to get out. But for the black kid, they keep on keeping them in that area. And the issue of planting drugs, the issue of involving black children into all of that is happening here. So our kids are targeted. It's very clear to me by the school system, by the prison system, and or by the system itself, economic system. All of these things, our young black boys are being targeted. So this is how it is in Canada. You will not find a police pull you over and then shoot. It's very rare to see that, but when you get involved in any kind of situation, they make sure they exaggerate the situation. And one of the things that happened recently in my area was a Jamaican guy who had a mental issue, and he was going out of control, and his brother called the police. So when the police arrived, they already told them that the guy has a mental issue. So they arrived, and the guy took a knife. The police shot him. So we started protesting. I'm like, how will it inform you that someone has a mental issue and you come with a firearm to shoot him? They didn't say he's a criminal. They didn't say he's a hired killer. They didn't say he's a robber. That he has mental problem. You could have come with all the support necessary to neutralize this person because they have mental illness. They don't have a firearm to shoot you from a distance with a knife. You couldn't tase him. You couldn't find any other way to neutralize him. You got to shoot him 1, 2, 3 times. That's execution.
Yes.
So the racism is execution. So the hatred, the racism, it exists. And every white society I have been in, do never, ever been deceived. The racism and the white supremacy is their Bible. And the more you tolerate it, the more civilized you look to them. If you don't talk about it a lot, you try to find different words to describe their brutality. Then they say, yeah, this one, he's civilized, he's talking nice, he's not sentimental. But when you say it the way it is, then you are radical black nationalist.
Yeah, you know what, and it's interesting. It reminds me a little bit about the conversation that we had last week, and what I was trying to summarize, and summarizing the 2020, the project 2025, and the rest of it, and looking at in a global scheme of things, it's an attack. It's an all-out attack. And the question I want to possibly bring in Dr. Whitaker or any other psychologist on the platform and to talk about, we need to be on somebody's couch as a people. Because the man show you on every angle that he don't have your best interest. You just said talked about the similarities of the ratio of the jail population. We see it here, and most predominantly, I'm sure, European countries, you're going to see the same situation. And even in some of the light brown countries, it's a little hidden, those little subtleties about the light-skinned Cuban and the dark-skinned Cuban, the light-skinned Puerto Rican and that, and same thing in India and all that, and even in Brazil. There's some remnants of that. See, so my question is, with our need, psychologically, me and Dr. Witter agree on, it's suffering from a mental illness. Because for somebody, it's almost like Obama trying to reach across the aisle and they keep smacking your hand and you still trying to be accepted by a system that is constantly rejecting you and persecuting you and subjugating you and doing everything that you can possible, and you still trying your best to be accepted. That's some psychological issues, bro.
Yes.
So we need to be laying on somebody's couch, because it don't make sense for you not to, something I was writing and putting down, for you not to be attacked and not to circle the wagons, to protect yourself, or to posse up with like entities, like ethnic groups or people like yourself to protect yourself. That's a natural animal instinctive behavior.
Yep.
To protect yourself. To say, hold on, these people is not in the best interest of me. So this not coming together, this, is everybody just a sellout? Our pastors and leaders of the world and gatekeepers of the world to keep the status quo going? Or if there's something also psychologically wrong with this, because the man has done a great job in doing what he's doing to psychologically keep us at bay of where we are. Is it like the elephant still think he's being tied up with a little string and he just can't do nothing? Some psychologically wrong.
Yes. Yeah, they blame us for pointing out their crime. And when you point out their crime, then you are the one doing wrong. This is the issue. You see the double standard and the hypocrisy of Western philosophy. Everybody need to know this. And this is what African geopolitics, those who are drafting African geopolitics, and even in the Black American politics, you need to be very clear about one thing. And it's very consistent. It is the hypocrisy of Western ideology, culture. Let me just call it culture. When they say we the people, when they write the US Constitution, they say we the people. That word people, to you, it means human being. For them, it means white people. They don't mean people as in you. When they say human rights, they are not, when the word human there, you are deceived by the word human. They are not referring to you. That's why they can write a constitution and say, we the people, and then in that constitution, Black people cannot vote. In that constitution, their own women could not vote. But it is said, we the people. So there is an understanding, unwritten culture that they have within them, which is their supremacy. That's why it's in their philosophy, it's in their politics, it's in their religion, it is in their dealings and their relationship with us. And that's why you need to be clear about. Look at the Democrat and the Republican Party. The fascism is returning to the Western world because somehow they feel that the Islamist Muslims, immigrants have somehow infiltrated into their country. They've taken over many places. They're in Europe, and they've allowed them in America. They are in numbers. They are growing in numbers, and they see immigrants coming. So the fascist instincts of the white people is coming back to say, let's protect our white identity and kick everybody else out. Now, that's what Republicans represent. Now, for Black people who are joining, they think Republican is about America nationalism. No, it's about white identity. That's why Donald Trump can pick a white guy who called him Hitler yesterday and still pick him to be a running mate instead of you, Tim Scott, that's been worshiping him for years. Because if Donald Trump dare make you, Tim Scott, to be his running mate, he's done. They're not going to vote for him. Now, the Democrats have been selling the illusion of multiculturalism. For them, they tell the white supremacy, they say, look, you can't just tell them that this is about white supremacy. Then they will be on defensive. We have to give them the illusion of multiculturalism. And the Republicans telling them, no, we can't give them the illusion. We have to tell them what it is, what time it is, so they can respect us. That's why we want to make America great again. We want to take it back to where it was, when we could tell them not to sit in our buses, when we could be in charge, where the white man is the only one who belongs to the White House. So Democrat is telling them, no, let's try to give the illusion of inclusion. This illusion of inclusion, Black people will feel they belong. This will feel they belong, but it's still about the protection of the white people. That's the struggle between them. It has nothing to do with us. That's why they can look at Obama and say, we can use him for the illusion of inclusion because his mother is white. His thinking is us, but he has some Black blood, so we can shell the illusion of inclusion. Then the king, why did Joe Biden pick Kamala Harris and didn't pick this lady from Georgia? What's her name?
Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams was in the field. She was in the trenches, bringing Democrats to vote. Kamala Harris was not a fan of Joe Biden. She called Joe Biden names. She's a lady who make her way through the white system in her own way by being mixing, trying to belong.
And non-threatening.
Non-threatening, like Nikki Haley. Take all the qualities of a white woman and be less of a threat to white supremacy, then you will be accommodated. Stacey Abrams, even though, yes, she's not a pro-Black, but at least she's a representation of Black American, can say, this one is representing us. Joe Biden said, no, we can't do that. This was the issue was about illusion of inclusion. So let's look for somebody who can muddy the water. So they get Kamala Harris. Now they tell Black people, have you ever seen any white person running for office and then they mention their Jewish ancestry? White people have different ancestry, but they always say he's Catholic or he's Christian. That's finished. But Kamala Harris, she's Black and Asian, first Asian, South Asian American, and half Black. They keep mixing all of that up. The illusion of inclusion is the Democrat. The white supremacy is the Republican. But all of them, put them together, their idea is to protect white identity, is to protect the supremacy of white people on top of the food chain in America. That is the goal. So we need to define ourselves. We need to look at our priorities and say, what can we do to put us up there? That's what the debate should be. Okay, I don't have a problem. Whoever wants to vote, and nothing will change if you vote for Kamala Harris or you vote for whoever, and nothing will change. Although the Project 2025 is more dangerous, Donald Trump is more dangerous, definitely. But in terms of looking at the reality, none of those parties have Black people interest at heart. There was no legislation passed for hate crime for Black people. Joe Biden, you came to power after George Floyd. Where is the bill? But it was easy to pass an anti-Asian hate bill quickly. No talk on things that really matter to Black people. No frank discussion. So all of them are guilty as saying, but I have a problem with Black conservatives who think that Kamala Harris is not Black enough, therefore I'm white, I'm voting for two white guys. So I don't understand that logic. It doesn't make any sense. So this trap that they put us in to say that we must choose the tools of the lesser evil is what we need to have conversation about. How do we free ourselves from always choosing from the tools of the lesser evil? And the same way it play out in America, that's how it play out in Africa. They tell African leaders, you have to either choose between the liberal, neoliberal white ideology and plant it in Africa, or you have to pick the, how they call it, the globalist agenda and all of those things. So Black politicians in Africa are not supposed to think outside the box. They have to talk like Obama. They have to talk like all of these Western Europeans. There is nobody talking like Kwame Nkrumah. Nobody talking like Patrice Lumumba anymore. Nobody is talking like all of these leaders, except these three guys that just had a coup. Other than that, African leaders have changed completely. They don't speak for us. They don't talk about our interests. So this is where we are. For me, the global white supremacy is real. And it is true in America. It is true in Europe. It is true in Africa. And even true in the Arab world. I attended one conference here in Canada a few months ago. They call it the elimination of discrimination. That they want to eliminate discrimination. And in the conference, there were a group of Muslims guys, and they were speaking against Israel and Palestine and how it needs to end, how Islamophobia needs to end. So I stood up. I'm like, okay, we are talking about ending discrimination. First of all, I feel it's a word you are throwing around because you want to end discrimination, but then all the people you have in this room, few Black people and then the Arabs and what have you, and the conversation is about how white people are treating us. I think the white people need to have that conversation, how their relationship should be with other human beings. Because it's not like we are fighting them. It's not like we are the one creating it. There's no racial war between us. It is they fighting us. It is they trying to be supreme. It is they avoiding equality. They don't want a level playing field to compete. That's where the problem is. There's no race war. there is a white supremacy agenda against other people. We are not going around trying to dominate white people. We are trying to control our own space and keep our own dignity. And I say, you Arabs, Muslims in this hall, you act like when you come to America and Canada, you act like you are also victim. But you are some of the most racist people on this planet. In your Arab world, how do you treat black people? How do you treat people who don't look like Arabs? So you guys are also fed from white supremacy. If you go to Dubai, they have a citizenship, how you can be a Dubai citizen or how you can have business investment in Dubai. They have a caste system. Number one, they have the Emirati, the white Arabs, royal family. They are the top of the food chain. Second to them is white people. They don't say Muslims, they say white European who come there at second on the food chain. Then other Arabs from North Africa. Then they put black people at the bottom. They didn't classify them according to religion. Whether you are black, Muslim, they don't care. For them, you belong to the bottom of the ladder in their system in Dubai. So I see all these black people, they make money. I want to go to Dubai. I want to go to Dubai. I said, go to Dubai. Go have fun. Because there is no beautiful places in black countries that you can visit. You want to go give all the money to the Arabs to feel belong. Have you studied their laws? Do you know that they put you at the bottom of their ladder in their system? That black people are the least of the least in their calculation? No, you don't know. You think when Will Smith goes there and they put him on the Burj Khalifa and take pictures, that black people are respected. No, they don't respect you. They respect the position you occupy in their industry. If you are a good actor, you are a good movie actor, they respect the acting that you do, but they don't respect you. If you are a billionaire, they can respect the money you have, but they don't respect your person. So this is what we need to understand. The white supremacy is a global thing, and black people are targeted everywhere. So we need to understand this and put our acts together.
You know, there is a globalist agenda. You have Council for Foreign Relations, you have the World Economic Forum, you have all these think tanks that do the planning for the global population. But the problem with the globalism is that countries give up a certain level of their sovereignty when they participate in those things. Yes. And I think one thing that's happening is that they have these conferences such as the one that they have in Davos every year, and all these world leaders come together and the corporate leaders come together. But I think that there's a certain amount of, let's say, strategy involved in that, because you have a seat at the table and you become apprised of the things that are going on. And then you walk away from that figuring out how you can protect the interests of your country. So I think that's one of the reasons that they keep giving us these timelines. You know, there were certain things that were supposed to happen in 2025. And many of those things may not be able to be executed simply because you have some resistance coming from populations around the world that they don't necessarily want to participate in the plan. So I think in that there is some hope. You know, they pushed it from 2025 now to 2030, and a lot can happen in those years. And I really like what you said about the illusion of inclusion, you know, because when you look at the two parties, and let's say you just take a look at the conventions, you go to the Democrat convention and it's going to happen in next month, you're going to see a lot of black faces, you're going to see a lot of black, brown in there. When you look at the Republican National Convention, and I didn't watch it, but I'm sure if you roll back the tape, you ain't going to see a whole bunch of us in that situation. But then we come back to that idea of the bird having two wings, but they're both wings on the same bird. And to a certain extent, the same agenda is there, and it puts us at the bottom of the totem pole, as you just indicated to us, because that's a reality in countries around the world. I'm also mindful of something that was presented by Dr. Quad David Whitaker, Nana Kra Kwame II, to those who know him as that, at the event that you had last year, Brother Antonio. I think he mentioned it at the event that you had over there on South Miles at the Afrocentric school. And I think it was also something that came up at Wings Academy, perhaps the year before that. Nana was talking about how Muslims are becoming an increasing aspect of populations in European countries. You know, so you do have this pushback on Muslim people and Islam in countries around the world, and you've had this conflict between the religions. But then when you peel back the layers, as we talked about prior to the beginning of the show, you see a certain level of control that is exerted over people by having those religions sanctioned by governments, and they have used the power within those religions to subjugate our people. I just wonder if you see a similar dynamic happening in Canada with relation to people who are Muslim coming into that country. Are they proposing bans on Muslims as they are proposing bans on Muslims here in America?
Yes, there is Canada have different regions. The way we don't have states, they have regions, and every region is led by a premier. So there is a French region called Quebec. They are the anti-Muslim region. For them, you can't wear hijab in a public building. You can in schools, in government area, you can't wear religious symbol, which is targeted mainly on the hijab. But there's something you need to know about Muslims entering the Western world. You see, the white supremacy agenda is a religion, but that doesn't operate necessarily on value. It operates on skin color. So white people prefers a person who have a white skin but doesn't share their value to a black person who share their Judeo-Christian value. I don't know how to put it. So what they say in the Republican Party, for example, they lie. They say, we are fighting for our white values, Western value, which is a Judeo-Christian value. You know, the Judeo-Christian value, if you have it, you are one of us. But black people in America were Christians when you were killing them. They were Christian when they couldn't go to your churches. They were Christian when they couldn't ride the same bus. So that's how they lie. They say it's about the Judeo. But in reality, when the Arabs come and they see them white skin, they're like, oh, their religion immediately kicks in. So they give them privilege. They started putting the white Arabs in. But what they don't understand, Islam is a political philosophy. When Islam is in minority, it tries to be very liberal and accommodating. But when Islam begins to take roots, its real political agenda begins to unfold, which seeks to destroy Western value. Because Islamic philosophy is based on the idea of Sharia. Muslims do not believe in secular law. They believe in a divine law revealed by Allah, and that law puts the Muslim on top and the rest of the world to be unbelievers and kafir. Muslims do not believe in freedom of speech because in Islam, there is a blasphemy law. If you speak against Muhammad and Allah, you will be killed. If you leave Islam, they call it the law of apostasy. If you become Muslim and you denounce Islam and you go in public and say, I was a Muslim, I have left, in the Sharia law, you should be killed. In all Muslim countries, in Saudi Arabia, in Afghanistan, it's a law. It's a Sharia law. Anyone who leaves his religion must be killed. Now, women cannot speak. Women cannot be in leadership or authority. Women are supposed to be at the back, and men are supposed to be at the front. Now, with all of these values, when they come, they conceal them. when they are in minority. And the white liberal accept them very quickly because they are light skinned. So they even start to give them privileges over black people who have been there for 500 years. But eventually, when the Islam begin to consolidate its power, then they suddenly wake up, they realize that the skin color game doesn't work. The Arabs wants to implement their Sharia and their Islamic religion. That's the war they are having. So now they are calling you black people to join them. We're going to fight these Muslims out of our country. Well, how did you let them in the first place? You gave them privilege because of their skin color. Now that they turn against you, you want us to join. This is what they do. So Islam is not a religion that can exist in multiculturalism. No. Islam does not accept multiculturalism. It seeks to dominate. And that's why in Canada right now, the liberals have made a lot of adjustments when when the Syrians were coming in all the public building. You know, when you are selling food, you have to put it, this food is halal. They have to accommodate what kind of meat Muslims eat. You know, during Muslim Ramadan, in social service, you got to respect them. You got to separate the food and say this is pork, and you know, give them all the privilege they need for their religion. And I'm saying, hold a minute. Yeah, why should we need to make concessions for other people's faith? And they've done that in many places because the liberals, for them, it is about their skin color. And now these guys have unleashed their true religion. So they are going to have a clash. In France, right now, they're having problems. Even the Olympics they organize, they've been sabotaged here and there. You can see the Palestine protests. You can see how the Muslims are penetrated everywhere in their society. And now they are scared. They don't know what to do. So that's their problem.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. So you're saying it's a Trojan horse?
It's a Trojan horse. They came in and said, look, we all same, sour, wallahi. We are the same. Then the white people were like, okay, they are Middle Easterners. They are Semites. They are not black people. Let them in. And they got in. Now they pick up the Quran and say, now we don't want democracy. We don't want freedom of speech. If you speak against Prophet Muhammad, we're gonna kill you. So now the white people were like, oh, wait a minute. We are under attack. Black people, join us. No, we can't join you. You let them in. You said that because they look like you were letting them in at the detriment of black people. Okay, now you see Trump yelling. They are taking black jobs. They are taking black jobs. Trump, what is black job? Okay. He needs black people to join his fight now. What is black job? Black people can do any job. They can be president. They can be billionaires.
Oh, that's a point.
Why are you saying they are taking black job?
Yeah.
Is there a specific job description for black people in America that there are certain jobs they can't do? There are certain jobs they can do. It even sounds stupid. And so, Trump is fighting for us. No, he's not. He's telling you black people are doing the gutter jobs and the immigrant come for those gutter jobs. Black people, wake up. They want to take your job. No, if we are equal citizens, why don't you say they are taking American jobs?
Yes.
That's
the illusion of inclusion on the Republican side, or at least his side.
Yeah. So the Republicans are trying to learn the illusion of inclusion. But they see it gives Democrat votes. So they're like, ooh, Democrats are getting vote. Let's do the illusion of inclusion. But we will limit it. That's what they are doing.
But see again on the politics side of what we was talking about, us, not having our rightful place and nobody really speaking on the behalf of black folks. And I have to go back to what Dr. Claude Anderson talks about. Until we establish ourselves as some type of threat or resource, people gonna always walk over us. And then I have to add that because we it came up, to me when we talk about Obama and like we really got a stake in this thing, politically. We don't. Nobody never since the beginning of the country never looked out really and said this is a black thing. If it wasn't for some bloodshed, some threat of losing some money and things, you wouldn't have no rights. It wasn't about you until somebody spoke to you, the country's moral compass, and they started releasing some of these civil liberties that we have at this particular point. But we sit up here and get offensive. They ain't done nothing for us. They ain't never done nothing for you willfully. What are you talking about? That's all we got was trickle down situations. So until we understand, that until we come up with an agenda that's collective, or like Claude Anderson, put our resources together and demand something and hit the man in his pocket or something like that, nobody is never going to respect you. And of course, the Democrats going to take you for granted because you ain't asking for nothing. You're not collectively doing anything. And that's why, and that's why I go back to the tax situation, because like you say, yeah, they put the Asian bill out there because they got resources. They know they can hurt them collectively in the pocket of doing something. The gays, the gay rights, and they put everything and everybody ahead of you. That's why I say it's an attack, and that's why I say it's an attack on our consciousness not to see this particular stuff going on right in your face.
Yeah,
and
another deception in American politics. Whenever there's election, you hear black vote, and there is Kamala Harris had a meeting with black women, and she raised $2 million. Boom, on a Zoom. Okay, why is it that during election, I don't see black politicians having a town hall meeting with black people and say, what is the problem? What is the bill you want passed? At that time, they want everybody to mix. When it comes to town hall, everybody know we want to speak about Americans. But when you want a vote, you say black vote. We need black vote. We need a black women vote, black male vote. Well, I have never seen a town hall of black male sitting down with a presidential candidate. They have some few photo up, which is a joke, but real black leaders.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not talking about celebrities who are rich. Those are billionaires. They are comfortable. They don't even understand what it means to live on a paycheck. So if you call Kanye West to come speak for black people, Kanye West got $1 billion in the account. He's not even emotionally moved. He can talk about it, but he don't really feel it. Why aren't you going to these black organizations, meeting all of these, and sitting down with them and say, what are the challenges of black America? What bill do they want passed? You don't want to discuss it. Black Americans for the past, I don't know how many years now, they've been discussing reparation, and no one wants to bring it on the top. No one wants to talk about it. They avoid it. So for me, there's a lot of hypocrisy around both parties, okay? Around both parties. But those who are saying that Democrats are so bad, I think the Republicans, they start campaigning for Republicans. I think they are really, they are morons. I don't know how to really say it, because Trump has nothing for black people, absolutely nothing. Okay, at least in Democrat, we see the illusion of inclusion, but in the Republican, they clearly tell you. In fact, their vice president is married to an Indian. They made a case out of that. They went on social media and said, why did he marry an Indian? Some of them are now going to vote for Trump for that. So imagine with a black man on the ticket on the Republican Party, you will not get the same vote. You will not get the same vote. So, I mean, we have to free ourselves from this illusion of inclusion.
Yes.
The Asians are not looking for an Asian president. They are looking for how they can control the economy of America and be in charge in key areas, to be some of the CEO in some of the highest corporations. That's their target. Okay? So we shouldn't be fighting over that their White House. We should focus on how to empower ourselves and be in position of power economically and politically. No one should come and speak for us. Start taking a black vote and this and that. Black people's problem as it's not being addressed. You see, that's the same problem I have with our politics back home in Africa. I joined a political party called the EFF. EFF was started by Malema in South Africa. So he created branches in most African countries. And the main aim of that party is Pan-Africanism, to bring Pan-Africanism on the board and unite Africa and diaspora, and actually try to stop Europeans from taking over strategic sectors in the African economy, and also bring about industrialization in Africa. I joined the party in Liberia, and then I was here. I became the diaspora leader. But what I saw, these guys were after jobs. They started making deals with the government. I raised some money for them. I said, we need to be self-sufficient so that the party, so that, okay, what happened? I will go back. They gave me a letter. They said I should meet with the Canadian Socialist Party so they can be financing us in Liberia. So I told the leader of the party, I said, no, I can't do that. He said, what? I said, I can't meet with the Canadian Liberal Party to finance our political movement in Liberia. If they finance us, then now they're going to tell us what we're going to do. So they said, well, if you don't want to do it, then you are undermining the party. How are we going to get money? Now you tell us. Everyone, so I said, okay, I will raise money. I will tell everyone to donate. When we raise money, let's have a big farm and sell, and all of us, we get together. We have a lot of members in the party. Let's create a farm, and then that farm create food. We create food for our community, and by the same time, we raise money from that food, and we start sponsoring our political activity. On one hand, we are creating jobs for our party members. We are feeding our community, and at the same time, we are getting money. They said, okay, raise the money. I said, okay, I raised $5,000. So they said, okay, send the money. I said, let's do rice farm. They said, no. They need to make a cocoa farm so they can sell it to France. These are my party members, and we are all supposed to be Pan-African revolutionary. They forced me. They said they want a cocoa farm because they get money faster. I said, okay, go ahead. They bought the seedlings. I never saw the farm. I never saw the money. I resigned. When I called for accountability, they couldn't show me the pictures of the farm. I said, okay, I'm done here. I resigned from the party. I said, that's end. So that's the way. I don't join a party just because for us to get jobs, or we should be up there. We should deceive the people that we are trying to lead just for us to be among those oppressors. It's like we are actually fighting to be like our oppressors.
That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely.
Yes. The main reason we are complaining is because we don't have a seat on the table. As soon as we get a seat on the table, we are like, okay, guys, you got to hold on now.
Yeah.
Don't yell too much. I'm going to talk to them. You guys, slow down. This is what's been happening. You see them yelling. This is what happened with Senegal. I haven't talked to you guys about what happened in Senegal.
Talk to us.
Yes. The two Senegalese brothers. One is called Ousmane Sonko. The other one is called Diomaye Faye. Two young brothers in their 40s, late 30s and early 40s. They started a Pan-African movement they call the Patriotic Movement of Pan-African Workers. That was the name of their party, PASTEF. So they were working in the government as tax collectors. So they became whistleblowers. They find out that the government were making concessions agreement on the oil and gas in their country to France. A lot of dubious deals to enrich 1% of their country and impoverish the rest of them. So they wrote a book and published it in the country, and the entire students and young people rose up and supported them. So they said, we are Pan-Africans. When we get into power, we will change the currency, we will get France out of this country, and we are going to create a Pan-African republic and all African countries will begin to use her as an example. So the young people rally around them. And they would, few months to the election, the leader of the party got arrested and imprisoned, Usman Sonko. In fact, the both of them got arrested, the two guys. And the government said they are not going to run for the election. But few days to the election, they got released. When they got released, the main guy who was the presidential candidate, his name was Usman, he was told that he can't run. He was barred by the court. So his secretary rather, became the leader of the ticket. Surprisingly, they won the election. It was celebration and jubilation everywhere. We, the Pan-Africanists, we were so happy. These guys got into office. They started changing their language. The president went to France. He had a meeting. He came back. The young people were like, yo, what's going on? I thought we were going to get the French military out of Senegal. I thought we were going to have national dialogue and Pan-African were supposed to be trooping into Senegal. I thought we were going to join the Sahel countries. These guys started speaking very slowly, very calmly, just like the politicians before them. They started saying, calm down. We know we have to take it easy. We have to make things. So in a nutshell, they started changing. That's the greatest betrayal that have happened to Pan-Africans recently. And some people are saying we shouldn't give up hope. Maybe they are trying to be strategic. If they go out all at once and attack France, they might sabotage their economy. So they're trying to do it diplomatically and get them out. But I'm not buying that. You have to walk the talk. If you are either you are revolutionary or you are not. You can be a revolutionary last night and you get elected and you start speaking like a politician. So we have been around so much to know that that's the beginning of deception. So for me, I'm not ready to work with anyone who is there to enrich themselves, deceive African people, and just get power. So the new party I joined recently, they actually found me on the internet and they called me and they appointed me to be their secretary general. So the party is called LPP, the Liberian People's Party. This party was created in 1983, and it has been the party that fought against the one-party system in Liberia. They were a Pan-African party. They were responsible for bringing multi-party democracy in Liberia. It's a very old party, but they tried to rejuvenate the party, and they're bringing young people on board. So I just got elected as the Secretary General for that party in the diaspora, and we are working together now so we can put a candidate to run for the next election in 2029. So that's the project I'm working on.
Very good.
It's really disheartening to hear you talk about what happened in Senegal, because I remember in a previous broadcast, we were kind of celebrating the fact that Pan-Africanists were able to overcome the traditional party politics and put themselves in a position to become elected by the people. So to hear,
not cutting you off,
brothers,
I did a show on Kush TV where when they got released, I did a podcast very quickly. I said we should be aware of the Mandela paradox.
Yes.
I said we should be aware of the Mandela paradox. The Mandela paradox is when a hero fights for a cause. And what they do, they intimidate that hero. If they don't succeed, they put you in prison. And in prison, they will try to assassinate you. If they can't kill you, then they negotiate. But that negotiation is for you to sell the very cause you are fighting for. So by the time that Mandela will be coming out of prison, he is not the revolutionary who went to prison. He's a man who has made concession and deal. Now he's coming back, and you are seeing him now talking differently, slowly, and you have to be very careful. So I said that, and that's what happened. It appears that while they were in prison, they had a deal. They said, look, guys, we're going to release you, okay? But the U.S. interest is under threat, in the Sahel and the France interest is under threat, we will release you and you can win the election, but you don't need to touch those areas. If you can make a deal, we'll let you go. Okay, they were in prison for 3-4 days and for maybe a week or so, and their wives are crying, and then they put you in a very difficult position. Then probably these guys were like, okay. And that's where we are, unfortunately. That's why those who must be ready to fight the cause of Black people, you must be ready to give up your life. You must be ready to say, I don't mind to die for this cause. That's the only way you can get it done. As soon as you're afraid and say, well, they might get me, then you lost the battle right there. You must be ready to say, if I'm taking for the cause. That's fine. I joined the ancestors of righteousness. But I have to fight for the liberation of Black people by any means necessary without any compromise.
And like the brother in Burkina Faso, I stopped counting at 11 times they tried to kill him. So they probably had about 15 times that they don't try to kill the brother in Burkina Faso. You know what I mean? And we should know that that's the strategy. That's how they come in, because we don't understand, let alone the history of this country and the backdoor deceit that's been happening, and let alone what's going on in Africa and how many leaders and for liberties and rights that France and a few in America has teamed up and killed over there in Africa. I mean, that's the game. That's the game that's been played on us for a long time. So again, it's a difficult road, and you have to be in that mindset, like you just said, Sekou. They're coming at you. They're coming at you, and that shows you how that long arm of corruption, permeates and reaches out and touches individuals.
We all have to make sacrifices. Few months before I graduated, my school posted me to work with the immigration. So I went there. They gave me an office, and they wanted me badly. They said, "Look, you have to work after your placement. We want to give you a job." I said, "Okay." And I was supposed to be in charge of immigrant refugees issued and all of that. And there was hope, but they went on YouTube and got my videos. Okay. And I got in the office one morning and I met my supervisor watching my video on African Renaissance. And they were watching, about 3 of them were sitting, white guys, and the big screen was on, and I was talking about African Renaissance, speaking against white supremacy. So I get in the office, they are like, "Whoa, you are a good speaker, we like it." And I see the hypocrisy, I see their face, because for me, I don't go by what they say. I go by their playbook. I know what white supremacy is. I know what white fragility is. I know white sentiment is. So I don't go by what they tell me or what they say. I go by what their next move is going to be. That's why I operate. So as soon as I said and do that, I said, okay, I get it. I'm not getting this job. And that's what happened. As soon as the employment was over, they were like, actually, you are qualified, but the employment, you have to wait a little bit. I said, I got you, no problem. That's why I understand that very well. And I know the risk I'm taking to speak. But why should I do anything contrary? Like I want to be rich or I want to make money? Or billions of Black people are suffering around the world and the truth is not being told. They have been manipulated. Our consciousness is being manipulated. We have to make sacrifices. If the jobs we're supposed to get in the corporate white world is not given to us, so be it. But let's speak the truth. These videos could enlighten the next generation. They could enlighten our children so that they can know in what society they live in and what time it is and what they need to do. I don't care about I get a job, I don't get a job. That's why I always try to invest in a little in my private sector to be able to do something for myself. And that's white job. They tell you what to say.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I say, it's a battle for this mind, and you have to, and that's why I'm for going back to and dealing with African traditions. And I'm saying, and that's why I say you can't fix our problem with the same system that took you there, that got you there. Yeah. And that's why I think, you know, I see some of the like Joshua Mapunga and, and how they speak about, and I'm seeing other countries talk about reviving some of their African ways of doing things and dealing with the colonized type of constitution that we, tend to love so much over there, and I think that's going to be our liberation. To me, we don't try it this way for how many years, and you still in this position to where you got a new group of organization like the LGBTQ ABCD, how they have just stepped right above you. The Asians come in and stepped above you. The Spanish come in and stepped above you. The Arabs come in and stepped above you. It's obvious where you're at. So the system, from the religious piece to the Islamic piece, all of it is not working for them. And all of them has killed folks and took over Africa and did things to you under the name of God. And our ancestors are saying to you, when you going to try me? You don't try everything, but when you going to try me? And being the oldest people on the planet that went around the world and taught everybody's civilization, they got the answers to most of your communal issues that you have. If you just would go and check them out, they got the answers. How to live together. What's your role of a man? What's your responsibilities in the community? How to build up an economic thing to get people to pool their stuff together. They have all the answers, but the man has defamed the African school of thought, the African spirituality so well, and pastors have been they boys in producing and putting out all this negative attitudes towards Africa, where we don't even look that way. And he's been successful in doing it while he's on the money grab, taking all the resources and everything out of Africa. I hope that awakening is happening and we start to change that view.
Yep.
Yes, we're going to move towards conclusion, but I just want to make sure that I share the resources that you shared with us before the broadcast began. You mentioned a couple of books, and I'm sure that they have something in terms of a message to those who are able to read them. So you mentioned The Universe is a Single Atom by the Dalai Lama, and African Philosophy, the Pharaonic Period by Teofili Obenga.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So this book is very important. I know many people must have read it. It's not a new book, but you have to take your time. There's a difference between reading for the sake of reading a piece of literature and actually doing a systematic reading where you really take note and look at what the author's central idea is. So you have to read this book in a very academic way for you to understand. It tells you the chronology of the human thought, how it evolved, how the African personality played a central role in bringing what they call today philosophy. That how the Greek philosophy evolved out of the ancient Egyptian philosophy, and how the ancient Egyptian philosophy itself is tied within the general African philosophy. You have to find out in this book. What is a human being from the African philosophical point of view and spiritual point of view? It's important to find out in this book. Because when they say we are made in the image of God, we are slaves. I was talking to one of my brother who's a Muslim, and he said, Allah created us all to be his slaves and worship him and what have you. I said, yes, you were talking like an Arab. That's not what African philosophy tells me. Okay? The Kemetic philosophies refers to the human being as the remech, the tears of the divine. And the tears of the divine is an aspect of the divine. So we are an aspect of the divine having our own experiences. So we are an extension of the creator force. So we have no excuse to blame any entity for our existence because we are an extension of the divine. So what we do, we take responsibility. What do? We create. What do? We protect life. What do? We create and protect life. That's our purpose. And we keep harmony and balance as guardians and custodians of life and of the universe itself, because we are part of it and we are it. So Those are things you need to know. That's why African philosophy is important for you to learn. The Dalai Lama is not African per se, but I love this book because it speaks to spirituality and science. Because when you are too much into Western philosophy, you think when you know science, therefore you have nothing to do with African spirituality. It's garbage. Nothing exists. We came out of nothingness. The argument Dalai Lama makes in this book, because remember, Buddhism is a non-theist spirituality. They don't believe in an entity called God, but they are a spirituality nonetheless. They have a lot of similarity with Africans. For them, the idea that the universe started with a material in a big bang, that there was a day, there was one tiny atom, it expanded and it just exploded and it created everything. It sounds like there was just one matter, and that matter was just there by itself and exploded by itself and created a universe called the materialistic philosophy of the world, of the West. And based on that idea, we have to think that everything in this universe is matter. Without matter, nothing else exists. That the universe is made of material things, the plant, the trees, the air, anything we can touch and feel and measure. Beyond that, there is nothing. But what we need to know is that the origin of matter cannot be explained by science. That's the frontier. Science cannot tell you that little particle atom that was there, where did it come from? Why is it even there in the first place? Why is it that there was something rather than nothing? So that leads us to what we call the immaterial aspect of life. And to understand what an immaterial is or spiritual is, you have to think about your consciousness. You cannot put your consciousness on the table and measure it. You cannot be able to put a tape on your consciousness, even though you can touch your brain. Your brain is just a gadget, but the consciousness itself is fluidic, it's immaterial. You just feel that you are conscious. And this consciousness is like a sea of ocean in our mind. We are only able to pick a part of our consciousness to be able to discuss the discussion we are doing right now. But a lot is going on in our head at the same time. And that sea of ocean of activities going on that cannot be quantified, that cannot be calculated, is what scientific are calling consciousness. For the Dalai Lama, that is the manifestation of spirituality. So at the beginning of the universe, there should be a consciousness moving by itself that is non-material. There should be a consciousness that was thinking of itself, how to bring itself into being. It was not a material. But then out of that immaterial thing, it manifested itself into material, as we see it as a universe. So the idea of spirituality is stands on the fact that the origin of matter has to be immaterial. That's why you have to understand the idea, so that when a person dies, you say, well, the body is gone, the consciousness is gone, he's nowhere, he has dissolved into nothingness. So the spiritual person said, there is no such a thing as nothingness, because in the beginning of your universe, there was always something. So this person that have died and disappeared, he has only entered into a spiritual stage. He has only entered into another stage of immaterialness, which was the very beginning of the universe. It's conscious, it is immaterial, but it is aware of itself. That's where this idea of spirituality is postulated upon that philosophy. So it doesn't mean you deny science. Science is a study of nature. We are able to study the plant, the chemistry around us. Never give up on science. The African must be in science, but we must understand the origin of matter is unknown in the scientific way, and we postulate that there has to be an immaterial aspect of matter to bring matter into being. That is the foundation of spirituality. And our consciousness is the evidence of that.
Okay, I know you got to go, but I also want to let you know that I noticed that you lifted Medu Netur. That
Yes.
book.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
folks need to know about that as well. There's a series of books, different volumes, but they are just magnificent. There's so much understanding to be gained.
This is a powerful book also by Ra Nefer Amen, one of the great teachers of the Kemetic philosophy. It's interesting in this book, the concept of God, which got twisted in Islam and got twisted in Christianity, is what Ra Nefer tried to explain, the idea of divine. Because when you are in a materialistic philosophy, God has to be a man sitting in the sky on a throne. If you cannot have that imagination, then you are confused about what God's supposed to be. So in the Arab world, there should be an Arab old man who speaks Arabic. He's somewhere in the sky. He cannot reach us. His telephone line is not working. So he has to send Prophet Muhammad and give Muhammad an email called the Quran to come and read the email to us. Because he's far away, and said that the email has to come through Muhammad to reach us. And for the Christian, God wrote a letter to send it to us because he's so far away. And the letter has to come in the form of a Bible. And when people could not understand it, he has to send a human being to come and explain that letter, or his son called Jesus. But when you read this book, Ra Nefer tried to tell you that the anthropomorphic description of God is just a mythological way to try to explain what a creator is. But when Africans use the word God or use the word creator, they are not using it in the same way as the European and the Western. We can create images, we can create whatever, but actually what we are speaking about is an entity, indescribable entity, conscious, that have manifested into itself, into being, into existence. And we are part of it. We are it. It is within everything, and it is everything and everything at once. Very difficult. It's not a separate man sitting in the sky revealing books. That's why the idea of getting a book and say this is a word of God. So this God, he actually have to dictate a speech, and it has to be written in the book. What our ancestors had is called wisdom text. Wisdom text is how great teachers are trying to explain this mystery of existence, this mystery of life. They explain it. Those books are supposed to be called Book of Wisdom, not Word of God. When you say Word of God, that's nature itself. Every morning as the sun rises, nature is speaking. God is speaking. When the hurricane is coming, nature is telling you, leave that area. God is speaking. Everything is happening around you. Nature is God speaking to us. Our consciousness, when we are able to meditate and think properly, we are able to capture the message from the sea of activities going on in our mind. That's God speaking. It's not the idea of putting one book together and say, this is the word of God. Any other thing is a lie. That is a political philosophy to control the human family. So we need to go deep into African philosophy, which sole purpose, only purpose of it is to create a better human being. That's it. A better human being who is able to connect to his divine self.
Come on now. That's it. Yeah.
He created a better human being that is able to connect to his divine. He identifies his human nature and his divine nature, and he's able to live in harmony with that. He will be a good agent to his surrounding. He will be a good agent of life in everywhere he finds himself. But when he's disconnected from that divine purpose, he becomes destructive. He go around looking for wealth for no reason. He create nuclear bomb to annihilate his existence. Material thing. For absolutely no reason. He's running around with no purpose for life because he's disconnected from his divine self. But when he's connected to his divine self, then the entire universe becomes his purpose of existence, to keep the universe alive, to keep every other thing alive, and to protect nature. So that's the purpose. So it's good to have our spirituality, and it's good for us to excel and advance in science. Do not confuse it with creating a religious theology and say, you can't think like that you have to follow Jesus or you go to hell. You have to follow Muhammad or you go to hell. No, that's not how it worked for us.
Wow.
Well, that's quite a statement there, brother Sekou, and it's probably a good place for us to button things up because I know you have to run. But we want to thank you for suggesting those resources to us. One, because if you want to hide something from Black folk, you put it in a book, they say. But you can open up that book and have access to the wisdom of the universe, so eloquently pronounced by you. So again, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to connecting with you again on this platform to bring the gospel of Pan-Africanism to our people, because that is going to be the thing that brings us together as a people. Brother Antonio, any parting words?
Just basically what they say, and most of our Christians can get it in Bible text and what brother was saying, but we don't internalize it. It's the unseen or the immaterial that rules the material. It's the unseen that rules the seen. That's all that they're saying. It's the spiritual world. Connect to the spiritual world. You can help maneuver yourself and navigate yourself through the physical world.
Yes. And I'll add to that, it's the culture that brings you into connection with spirit. That's why it's so important to us, and that's why they fought so hard to disconnect us. Yes.
Definitely.
So, as always, again, thank you for joining us here on 360 Info Network. Know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, make today your absolute best day. Peace, everyone.
Peace.